Hello, everyone. This is PamelaTopjian, and today we're talking about spiritual bypassing. Now, last week I did an episode on being spiritually healthy and what that means. And I didn't want to go into spiritual bypassing on that one, so saving it for this one, and I will put that link below in the description. So if you haven't already, you can watch that one either before this or after this. So, spiritual bypassing is when certain words or phrases or practices are used to avoid or bypass pain or accountability. And the term was created by a psychologist, John Wellwood, I think is how you pronounce it. We can spiritually bypass, we can do this to ourselves, but when other people do it, they may have good intentions, sometimes not, and we'll get into that. But they might have good intentions, but it just comes off as dismissive. And they might say things like, everything happens for a reason, or this is your own karma, or just try to stay positive, or something similar to that. And I know that I have been guilty of this, some of this myself. Well-meaning, of course, but it's a fine line and a balance to be aware of. The right time, the right place for those words. But when someone is grieving or traumatized or talking to you about their trauma or they're in crisis at the moment, those types of phrases can feel really minimizing and even hurtful. Spiritual bypassing isn't just done by others, as I said earlier. It's something that we can do to ourselves as well. We might want to minimize the pain, or we're not ready to actually deal with it, or even bypass any accountability by telling ourselves it's the way the planets are aligned, or we lost our favorite, most powerful crystal, so of course I'm having this bad luck, or whatever. Or that it's our karma for not doing something that we knew we should have, or even a way to sort of punish ourselves rather than just taking accountability. It can be used as a defense mechanism. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, and instead of allowing ourselves to fully feel something or to do the work that it will take to process it all, we jump to spiritual bypassing. And I need to bring up religious trauma. Speaking of trauma, spiritual bypassing. Now, my last video on being spiritually healthy did not bring up religion at all. That's a whole nother subject, really. But I do need to bring up religious trauma because it's real and it very often goes unspoken. It can be from fear-based teachings like, you'll go to hell if this, like punishment, you're not worthy, abuse by spiritual leaders, shame, bullied, or abused for your sexuality or gender identity, and even exclusion from the community. For some people, spiritual healing means connecting with their faith. However, for others, it would be releasing themselves from their faith. We also need to talk about spiritual elitism, the ones who feel like they're more spiritually evolved, more enlightened than others. These are the types who truly believe and feel like they're doing you a favor for letting you know that if you had more spiritual connection or a better understanding, you wouldn't be experiencing this pain or whatever the issue is. Basically saying that they are more evolved than you, and that's why you're going through this. But real spiritual maturity will show up as compassion, the ability to admit when somebody's wrong, taking accountability, like I've said this so many times already, but taking accountability, having curiosity rather than judgment. So another type of spiritual bypassing is disassociation disguised as inner peace. Peace is not the same as being numb or dismissive. We really do have to feel it to heal it. You have to go through the fire to get out. You have to go through the storm to get out on the other side, or the storm comes through you before you can get out on the other side of it. And if you're not ready or you're scared, that's definitely understandable. But you don't have to live that way. Healing is possible, and there's several ways and methods and modalities to help. Nobody can do it for you, but you don't have to do it alone. And I think that's one reason for spiritual bypassing is we feel like we're so alone in this, or we feel shame, or I'm talking about when we spiritual bypass ourselves. We might feel shame, we might feel guilt, or we might want to even not even face it. So that's disassociating from it, right? Or sometimes you can feel like nobody can help me with this. There's nothing I can do. So I'm just going to cover it up. I'm going to disguise this or disassociate this. And also, when people are giving you those phrases of spiritual bypassing, they may be not able to handle what you are going through themselves. So that's their way of saying, everything happens for a reason. It's their way of disguising it as something more spiritual that you can just meditate on and you'll be fine. But there is help out there, I promise you. So as I said, the last video for last week was on healing spiritually, and that link will be below, as I mentioned, but also check the playlist on this channel for my podcast, Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And that's also on podcast platforms. If someone says, just breathe, or try meditation, or journaling, or stay positive, they likely aren't dismissing or belittling you, even though it can really feel that way. They just don't have the words at the moment. Or, like I said, they're really dealing with something themselves. And they do that to themselves as well as out to others. Now, that's not always the case. Some people do have this persona of themselves of being highly evolved beings. And I think you'll feel that difference. You'll know when that's the case. But while meditation and journaling and breathing exercises are all really helpful, it's not going to help where real healing is needed. They may be a good place to start or good advice in the moment, but no one says these things thinking they're going to solve all of your issues or you're going to heal from just the breathing exercises or just journaling or just meditating or any of those things. Or once the planets are aligned in a different way, or once you find the right crystal or get some sort of a energy reading or healing. It's not going to solve all your problems, but this is advice that they have, that they know, things that have helped them sometimes, or at least get started in the right direction. So they may be meaning well. And I know I've said that a few times now already because I think that, I know I have said some of these things and I'm feeling a little bit of guilt for it now. But I probably will continue to say those things. It's just a matter of being aware of the timing and what's going on with the other person. I know that I've always had the good intentions when I have said these types of things. I'll be more mindful now and aware of the right time and the place for this type of advice. I think we can feel when someone is genuine in their compassion or using these spiritual bypassing tactics and feeling like they are above or more evolved. Let your gut and your heart be your guide when you hear these phrases. Also, let's be more aware of when we might be using spiritual bypassing on ourselves when real healing is needed. Don't dismiss it. Don't think that you need to meditate more or journal more or wait until the planets change. Reaching out to a practitioner or a healer of some type might be needed more than just talking to a friend, or when we blame the full moon or our star sign. While I do believe that these things have an impact, it's something we need to be more aware of in ourselves. So I hope that this has been helpful to recognize when you are spiritually bypassing on yourself, or when you might be saying these things to other people when they're really needing some real healing, or to be aware when somebody is feeling like they're more evolved and they're giving you this advice as if it's going to be the cure all for everything you're going through. So it's all about really awareness and being aware that these things happen. Because, yes, the spiritual side of it, the spiritual stuff does have an impact, it does make a difference. As I just said, I believe that. However, there's also times when it's not appropriate, when more is needed. So I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here, but I hope that this has helped you in some way. And I wish you all so much peace, so much love, and inner healing. Thank you so much for being here.